Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Happy Shochu'sday from Japan. Christopher Pellegrini in Tokyo, Stephen Lyman in Fukuoka, wherever you are. Kanpai. Happy
Kanpai.
Shochu'sday. What's
Yeah,
in your cup?
we switched sides.
We did. Yeah,
Yeah,
you entered
I
before I
I
did
got
this
to the
time.
studio first. That's right. Good morning.
Good morning. What's shaking?
Uh, just not a whole lot. I'm still waking up. It was a little bit of a rough night, so
Oh, was
didn't
it?
didn't really sleep well. Yeah,
Oh, that sucks.
yeah, it happens. Um, but we'll get past that. Um, yeah. So yeah, if you're in the chat, let us know what's in your glass, and we may comment on what we think of that drink.
Family Mart Brendo Kohi. That was
That's
about
right.
good.
I am on. I believe this is Ethiopian Shirozu coffee.
That's way
Shirozu
more
is a local
sophisticated.
coffee roaster. Yeah, I
Oh,
took a walk
nice.
and picked them up yesterday. Um, cool. We got any booze news? Anything you wanna? Anything on your mind?
Booze news, not so much. I mean, the only one thing was an article from a couple of weeks ago that Maya actually had turned me on to, which was in the Japanese press in the I think it might have been from Kagoshima, just explaining the blight and how extensive it was in Kagoshima Prefecture this past season, and it was just it was everywhere. It was pretty much everywhere, and something that I don't know a whole lot about the science. I don't know the science behind all of this sweet potato disease that has been
Mm-hmm.
affecting the industry, but it sounds like a whole lot of no good, and it sounds like a whole lot of where is this going? Um,
Hmm.
how how long is this sticking around? How frequently is it going to return? And I don't know what can be done about it. That's I feel like we need to get an expert on here to tell us what's going to be
Sure.
happening here, because
Maybe we should
short yeah.
translate that article and try to go from there. See what we can do. See if
Hmm.
we can find somebody in the States that's an expert in this kind of thing and talk to them about the potential ramifications. I think that'd be a good piece of information for folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's downright scary. It really is,
Yeah. Sure.
considering the numbers
Absolutely.
that were being thrown around in this article and the percentage drop in
Hmm.
production, and that affects nearly everybody. Although I suppose people at the top of the food chain have a slightly easier time of managing these types of shortfalls in ingredient allocations.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I had actually been talking. I think yesterday with somebody about that Yamato Zakura went from 100 days a year to 60 days a year because of this problem. That's 40% of his revenue lost, and he can't make that up. Right?
No.
He only makes sweet potato shochu, so if he misses 40 days in a season, that's revenue that's never coming back because he can sell everything he makes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the bigger makers, you're right, they probably have contracts with farmers and farming cooperatives and that sort of thing, and they can get what they need, and it cuts out the little guys. So not good.
Not good at
So
all. So, one episode that we can do in the future, and I think, this would be an interesting episode, but it's also it's a bittersweet episode, is tasting some of the outside the wheelhouse brands that came out or that were distilled this year, this past brewing
mm-hmm.
season, because they couldn't do their normal thing. So that
Yeah.
means distilleries experimenting with other strains of sweet potato that weren't affected by blight. Maybe they're actually using entirely different ingredients. So you have a sweet potato distillery that is actually experimenting with rice. They're just doing 100%
Mm-hmm.
rice shochu
Yep.
for the first time in a long time. Or maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with barley or something else, just because they had the bandwidth, they
Mm-hmm.
had the people there to do the work, and they just substituted in a totally new ingredient base. We
Sure.
maybe could do a whole episode on those kind of one-off.
Well, it'll
And
be yeah. we definitely could. It'll be interesting to see if there are some potatoes that are susceptible to this disease and others that are not. If there's a transition over time to the potatoes that are resistant, right? So
Sure.
maybe Kogane Sengan is no longer the dominant potato because they can't grow
It's
them
weak. It's weak
safely.
on this
And
front. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And originally this was
It's
only affecting the purple sweet potatoes, it seems, and now it's started to affect the Kogane Sengan. So maybe, maybe none of them will be, immune by the end, but we'll see.
it sounds reminiscent of the struggles with rice strains around the world. I mean, you have the
Hmm.
you have the IRRI, which is the International Rice Research Institute, and they have, of course, worked with other organizations around the world to protect strains of rice and to keep the diversity not intact necessarily, because we really depend on a very small number of rice varietals today. I mean, there used to be
Hmm.
thousands and thousands, and now we're down to like triple digits in terms of the number of rice varietals that are consistently cultivated worldwide, and that's a level of pressure on those individual strains that cross our tables on a daily basis, that if even one of those strains gets hit by disease or supply shortfalls, it really, really affects the whole world. And what
Hmm.
we're seeing in Kagoshima right now, because it's such a significant part of the shochu industry, we're seeing something on the same level of that, where a dominant strain of sweet potato has become, I mean, kneecapped by this
Right. Hmm.
disease. And it's just, the entire industry is in the lurch because they don't have
Hmm.
a fallback plan. We've become so dependent on this one amazing strain that kind of ticks a bunch of boxes when you're trying to make a sweet potato shochu. It's
Hmm.
it's um it's kind of it's a very local version of that problem that we could have worldwide with food supply.
Right. Well, and I guess that's the downside of the industrialization of the food supply chain. I mean, you can feed more people than ever, but you're also overly dependent on things continuing to go the way that they've uh, been going.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
as we know, nature doesn't always do that.
Blind
So
faith doesn't work so well sometimes when Mother Nature
that's right.
wants to have her way.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I've got a little bit happier news
okay,
that I
yeah,
can
go for
share.
it. Let's steer this
I'm
one
gonna
in a more positive direction.
Yes, I'm gonna share my screen here. There is uh, a little bit of shochu press. Now, you will probably notice if you pay careful attention to my screen up in the, oh, it's hidden actually by our simple symbol, our logo, but actually
Oh,
it says advertiser content from JFudo. So JFudo is a
okay.
government body responsible for international promotion of Japanese agricultural products, and they're putting their money behind shochu in this instance, where there is this article in Eater with a map of the United States. Here's our map. You see, of course, everything's concentrated in New York and Los Angeles, but a list of bars where they're doing shochu themed cocktails, and you know a little bit more about this than I do. Is that right? This is actually a cocktail competition setup. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a competition. Well, I mean, it's all of these pretty well-known bartenders who have selected individual Honkaku Shochu brands, and also awamori too, that they wanted to use in a cocktail. There's Chris Gomez right there,
Yeah.
and oh, there's our friends Ryuki 1429, and so they got to select a brand that they wanted to work with, and then they made a signature cocktail out of it that they're going to keep on the menu for a while. And actually, Bar Moga is using right there is Benico, but if you click in, if you click into their, can you?
Hmm?
Can
Into
you
what?
click into their, like, go down? Oh no, it's only a map, huh?
Just opening
Okay,
Google Maps.
gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and they do have their
They
website
actually,
here.
all right. I don't know if they have it on their website, but there was another. This is Eater, that's why. Okay, so the
Yeah.
official website for the event, for the campaign, actually they use one of Honkaku Spirits brand's Mugi Hokka in a cocktail. I'm not sure if it says the actual the recipe on that website. I can't recall, but yes, I did have a little bit to do with a lot of the copy and ended up shooting a video for them and everything. But they have an age gate on there too. Oh, there it is. Okay.
So Shochu, yes, this is the J Fudo website. So from Jetro, that's pretty. So February 3rd to March 6th, 8 ambassador mixologists in New York and LA developed original Japanese shochu cocktails. Experience these cocktails at their bars.
Okay.
So you were talking about.
I was talking about Bar Moga.
Bar Moga. There it is.
There they are.
Oh, so they've actually got 3 cocktails. Oh, so what they did is they chose one of the 3
to headline on the Eater article.
Norwegian Wood, which for those of you familiar is a Haruki Murakami novel title.
Yep. And it's using
here it goes.
our good friend Mugi Hokka.
Yep, Mugi Hokka. Cool. Yes, I guess if you go to this website, maybe we'll put this in the chat. You can see directly all the different cocktails that are being made with shochu at these different places. So, all right, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, that is much happier news. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's it's nice to see some traction like that and some government investment behind it. I know that I was involved in various cocktail competitions using shochu over time, but this seems much more ambitious, probably a much bigger budget than what had happened in the past. So very cool.
Yeah, JFood is an extension. It's a satellite of Jetro, so they're dialed right in with all of the big pockets in the government, I suppose, or at least they have access to them, unlike most of us. And so yeah, it was. I'm not sure of budgets or anything like that, but they definitely were more ambitious, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Great, good to see.
Yeah. So let's mosey on over to the main event today.
We do have one other thing.
Oh, do we have one more
episode?
Oh yeah, we do. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll just talk about it as we transition to the main event. So we just dropped our latest episode 29 of the Japan Distilled podcast, all about the life and influence of Masataka Taketsuru on the Japanese whiskey industry. So if you're curious about him and his life and his experiences and historical context and the ramifications of his contributions to what Japanese whiskey is today, please give that a listen. It was a really challenging episode to research and to put together, but I really think it came out well.
I read like 80 pages on Taketsuru that weekend in preparation. Both your book, I read the section in your book, and then I read Stefan van Eycken, basically the first whole chapter of his book. So it was good. It was a good recap, good review, and get that information back front of mind. He was a remarkable human being, Taketsuru. You know, and the industry would not be the same without him, obviously.
No question. Yes, it's a fun one, and we're obviously we're shochu ambassadors, shochu lovers, but here at Japan Distilled, we have an appreciation for all things distilled beverage alcohol in Japan. Other than maybe Koroi shochu, we don't give that much.
Other than that, no, we don't have time for that really. Although I'll take it in a cocktail of some sort, sure, or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, they really need to stop calling that stuff shochu. Honestly, Koroi, it's garbage.
Fair. Cool. So yeah, the main event.
Drum roll, please. Zenkoji Spirits.
Yeah, I like them. And when we say Zenkoji, what we're talking about is that the entire fermentation uses koji inoculated grains rather than adding uninoculated grains to the second or the main fermentation, as is the traditional or standard style of production.
Right.
And awamori is always made this way, right? Awamori is 100% koji inoculated rice.
That's right.
And it's done in a usually done in a sandan shikomi type style, where you're adding progressively more koji inoculated rice over several days as you build the fermentation,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not giving, I guess, too much too soon to the yeast, right? It's you're kind of pacing it out a little bit, but over what I think it's, I'm trying to remember what in the awamori, what's the standard, about 2 editions after you build the primary fermentation, 2 or 3.
It varies so
Yeah,
much, yeah,
yeah,
from distillery to distillery.
yeah, yeah. But that's and what you get with awamori. I mean, obviously, we always talk about the contribution of the black koji, which gives you the earthy, mushroomy, funky, forest floor type flavors and aromas. But then you also get all of the fatty acids and everything from the rice that's used. Usually long grain Thai rice. But then the koji, I think the fact that it's all koji is punching up the umami as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really, really different drink than if you made a black koji rice shochu, where 70-80% of your mash bill is uninoculated, right? Is simply steamed rice. So it's going to give a very different expression. So fun to think about. And I think it really struck home for me recently. And I think the reason I suggested this topic today is that I tried 100% barley koji shochu. Now, I'd had that. The Ichiko makes a brand called Hita Zenkoji. So it's made in the Hita distillery, which is actually a former Nika factory. Now, what they didn't make whiskey there, they made fruit juices. So Nika did get around to making fruit juice eventually, and actually selling it. But then they sold that production facility to Ichiko, to Sanwa Shuri, and they installed beautiful, massive pot stills, and that's where they make Hita Zen Koji. So it's 100% koji inoculated barley shochu, and it's vacuum distilled, and it's a beautiful drink. It's really, really nice, bright.
It's one of my favorites that they make, honestly. I think it might be my favorite.
Really nice drink. But where it caught my attention is when I finally had the opportunity to try a 100% koji mugi, so barley shochu that was atmospheric distilled.
Oh, okay.
And that just gave me character that I did not expect from a product like that. I mean, we've had some very funky, rich, deep 100% or so atmospheric distilled barley shochu.
Sure.
Right? I mean, you've got Masako in the Honkaku Spirits portfolio. You've got Kanehachi, right, which is a famous brand. And for example, the barley shochu from Jufuku Distillery down in Kumamoto. Like, there's some great examples of just that really traditional, rich, funky type.
Too far away, I can't reach it. Maybe I can reach it. Hold on.
And I don't know where I put this.
I reached it. There it is. Kinuko.
There you go. Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, it does amazing things. See this?
Where should I put that?
You should never clean. Just causes problems.
I had that bottle up.
I like how they stamp the date on the back of the label, but it still bleeds through. You can see it backwards on the front.
Well, that's small distilleries, right?
Yep.
The one that I tried is actually from a quite big distillery. This is Takachiho. This is a really big outfit down in
they're gigantic, yeah.
In Miyazaki. But I wasn't that familiar with their stuff, but I've recently started tasting through some of it, and it's got a really nice
respect. Yeah, they're doing it right.
Yeah, and I think what they're doing, if we've talked about this before, typically as you grow in size, you're going to become less experimental. You're going to try to hit that sweet spot, middle of the road, something that's going to be popular with the most broad population, right? And I feel like that's what they've done here, where you've got an atmospheric distillate that's 100% koji, and it just has beautiful notes like banana and grain, and just really, really well put together. And I'm just so impressed. And it changed my mind about what a Zenkoji barley shochu could be, because I was familiar with Ichiko expressions, which are beautiful, but they're also in the Ichiko style, right? Ichiko doesn't really move too far away from their their
They're
products.
on the straight and narrow. Yeah,
they are. I mean, Saiyan is sort of a curveball from them, right? Really going bigger flavor and more grain forward, but they tend to be much more on the fruity, aromatic, floral side of things.
We've talked about this one before, but if you're in a lot of markets now outside of Japan, you can. Is that? Wait, I take that back. I apologize to Europe and to Australia and to South America and Africa.
In the United States, it's available
basically in the United States. It's everywhere. Saiten, which is a really interesting expression, 100% barley expression from Samashurui, makers of Ichiko, in that competition or in that campaign that Stephen mentioned at the top of the show by J Fudo, the cocktail thing. There was at least one bar using this. It is designed with cocktails in mind. So this is, as you said, it is a little bit of a curveball from them. It's a flavor profile that's a bit more involved than we're used to from Samashurui, but it is in line with that fruitiness that you tend to expect from their barley products. But I think you're right. Back to the subject at hand, the atmospheric distilled Zenkoji products are a lot of fun. And if I may take it back to the origins of Zenkoji products, you mentioned this already as well, and we're talking awamori, then you're in the realm of just, as you use the word umami. For people who are unfamiliar with the U word, umami is, I guess it translates to savory. It translates to a meatiness. It translates to a depth of flavor that is beyond. It's you take salt, you take saltiness, you dial it up, but it's not salty so much anymore. It's this super richness that you can't really, when you taste it, you know it. And when you taste it, you're like, that's good. But a lot of times it's not super perceptible, and it wasn't even considered a flavor until it was isolated here in Japan as, what we know now as MSG. One example of, a wonderful umami bomb is sashiba, which is a expression from our friends at Ikema Shuzo on Miyako Island, Miyako-jima. And this was made specifically for Miyako Airport. And fortunately, I have a couple of friends from there. And one time when they were coming to, we used to have this thing every Golden Week. It doesn't happen anymore, so don't get any ideas. But every Golden Week, friends used to just come to my place here in Tokyo and crash for like 3 or 4 days. So we just had people sleeping on the floor all throughout the apartment. And we would, make pancakes, and we would go out and play wiffle ball, and we would, that sort of thing. And it was fun.
You sound younger.
Yeah. I was way. It was a different lifetime. And to say thank you, she and her husband brought a couple of bottles of. She's from the Ikema family. By extension, she's like a cousin, I suppose. And she brought a couple bottles of this. You can only get it at the airport down there. And this was an award winner too. This won the 2007 Awamori Kampyokai, the gold medal winner from that competition. And the bottle is dated 20,5-7. I don't know how you translate that exactly. So that's maybe a Heisei 20, perhaps? So it was made a few years ago.
And it's got some legs on it.
And when you nose it and you're just like, oh yes. And you can get it. It's just the Zenkoji nature of making awamori, which is a rule. You're only allowed to use rice that has koji in it to make awamori. 100% of the rice, 100% of the starch is kojified, for lack of a better term. And it's deep, it's wide, it's vast in its attack and in its maintenance across the palate. I love it. I mean, I know you love it too. I think it's
true.
I think it's highly underrated how fascinating and satisfying these drinks are.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I've mentioned before, it's the long aged awamori that's in my wheelhouse. That's really like my favorite thing to sip on.
One is.
And I'm sure that would be one. So either I need to invite people from Miyako to come sleep on my floor, or I need to go down and visit myself.
I think that would be easier.
Yeah, I do look forward to getting back there. I've only been there once, and I definitely need to make a return visit. I'm definitely a fan of Zenkoji spirits, and I think it really, opening this recent bottle of Takachiho really sort of solidified for me that there's actually an aspect of those drinks that is solidly different from the standard production qualities. And I think that was masked when I was enjoying vacuum distilled versions of these, when I was having, the in addition to the Zeta Hen Koji, the Hita Zenkoji was Hakutake makes a Zenkoji that's actually available in the States. So Hakutake is the makers of Shiro, Hakutake Shiro, ubiquitous rice brand. But it's kind of a reddish purple label, which I definitely have seen in New York. I had a house party with some friends, and Jesse Falowitz brought from Mizu Shochu. He brought
chicken,
Popeye's fried chicken.
I forgot about
and that. The Hakutake Zenkoji was a perfect pairing for Popeye's fried chicken. And now that I think about it, the fact that it's Zenkoji may have been why, because it didn't make any sense that this essentially what tasted like a middle of the road rice shochu, but it had that extra layer of umami. It had a little bit of extra oomph to hold up to the delicious fried chicken from Popeyes. So yeah, it's
I like it. There needs to be more experimentation there. So Zenkoji, is there a Zenkoji sweet potato shochu?
Not that I'm aware of. That sounds like a bear to make.
Oh, it would be a pain in the ass.
Right. That's granulated, dehydrated sweet potato that you rehydrate, steam, inoculate with koji, and then do that again the next time you want to add to the
5 times as much for the second fermentation. Right. Yeah. Sounds like a thankless task right there.
Yeah. No, thank you. I could imagine somebody coming up with like a 100% corn koji or 100% soba koji shochu, but sweet potato seems a step too far.
Soba
challenge.
Yeah, I don't know how. I've never seen soba made. Soba in general. I don't think people make koji with soba. Soba is almost always 100% soba, so there is, fair. But soba shochu often has like rice or barley in it.
Right?
I remember sometimes both.
Yeah, I do distinctly remember a brand that I had reviewed for Kanpai back in the day that was about 1/3 of each, about 1/3 rice, 1/3 barley, 1/3 soba. So, yeah. Good. Any other thoughts on the koji?
It's oishii. Everybody should drink it if you can get your hands on some. I guess probably the easiest thing to find is that Hakutake. Yep. I'm gonna be so bold as to move us into a quick tasting here. I'm excited about this one because it's Furusa. This is Furusa 39%. From we're getting to the end of the second box finally. One day, probably. I'm not even sure if it'll be by the end of March, but by the end of April, we'll make it through the first half of this thing. 39% Furusawa Jozo, of course, the makers of the Three Ladies, which you guys, everybody watching the show has heard of before, Masako, Motoko, and Mahoko, and this is actually the Genshu for one of their most famous brands here in Japan, which is called Hito Aruki, and it's just a wonderful and, like I said, very well respected sweet potato shochu that you can't really get your hands on. So this should be interesting to check out. It's probably one of Furusawa-san's most elegant sweet potato shochu products. I absolutely love it. I see it on a menu. I order it in nanoseconds.
Yeah, I did too. It's a great shochu. Do you remember when I think you were with me? We were in a standing bar in Miyazaki, and he had a really, really old bottle of that he hadn't opened yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And rather than having him open it, I offered to buy it from him. And he sold it to me for like 1,200 yen. It was a
Well,
steal.
you know, when in Miyazaki, it's like, oh, I probably can find more of this.
Yeah.
Next time Furusawa-san comes in here and has a drink, I'll just ask her to bring half a case. And it's just, it's so nice. This is, Mahoko is the sweet potato shochu, 35% ABV. This is 39. That is in the States right now. It's the purplish label, and it's really, really fragrant and really expressive, and has a ton of fruit on the nose, and it's probably one of the oldest shochu in the market outside of Japan, honestly. This
I think it is the oldest.
It probably, yeah. I say one of, just because I'm not entirely sure, but it probably is the oldest. And this is a lot younger, and it's just really elegant. It has that spicy, the spicy earthiness from the sweet potatoes, but it's really, really smooth. And
I like this nose
really
a lot.
lovely sweetness to it as well. 39% ABV, which is on the north side of what we would expect from a sweet potato genshu. I think you rarely see above 38. I think 39 is just a little bit up there. If you see 40 or above, they cut that early, right?
Oh yeah. Yep,
Which is
no doubt.
really, really uncommon for such an early cut on a sweet potato shochu. 39 is high. And this is, I'll say it again, if you find Hitori Aruki when you're in Japan at a bar, at a restaurant, just get it. There will be zero regrets.
Yeah, you will not regret that for sure. It's a really beautiful drink. I'm liking this genshu. It's got real depth to it. Really nice mouthfeel.
Right?
Probably really light filtration, right?
Let's talk about pairing. The pairing recommended in the 2021 Shochu Rakuen pairing book. Let's see if I can get this right. You can see it right here in the middle of the page. And what they've got here is, they're calling it a dried mango butter. So it's something that you would put on baguette or on crackers, I suppose. And they have them sliced as wheels of butter that have, it's salted butter with dried mangoes in there, macadamia nuts, Hitori Aruki Genshu. So you actually add this spirit to the mix. And then, of course, baguettes. And so it looks like a pretty simple recipe. And then you get these wheels, these butter wheels that you put on top of the baguette. And I can imagine. I think that would go. I think the sweetness from the mango and the saltiness, I think, would go perfectly with this.
Sure. No, my mouth's watering. That sounds really good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Furusawa, she's amazing.
We have a question from Chris Caldwell. Are the distillers making their own pairing suggestions? Yeah, actually, the recipes are coming from chefs, and they have a little profile of the chef in his restaurant. So it's actually a collaboration.
This is from a shop called Akasaka Marushige, and
they'll have the chef's picture.
Yeah, down in the corner
below the recipe. So
yeah, it's a really interesting collaboration because they have the makers, they have the chefs, and then they also have somebody from the bottle shop. Where am I? What am I showing you? I don't even know what I'm showing you. I'm covering it.
You're covering. Yeah.
He's right here down in this corner. Everything's backwards on this damn screen. This guy here. So that's the bottle shop where this and some of the other labels that are in this book are sourced from. It's a really interesting collaboration. I think it's a great idea. I don't know if they'll do it again because it was a hell of an endeavor to get everybody using, get all the same bottles shipped out to all of these different makers. They had to select something that was really unique, something that isn't regularly available. And like we've been showing over the weeks, and we will show in the future, there's a bunch of unicorns in these boxes. So it's a lot of fun to sift through. On the other hand, if you buy both sets, which I did, for only because I had a bit of FOMO because Steven got both sets and I'm an idiot. So now I have all of these freaking 300 milliliter bottles all over the place that I just, I don't know. I can never
You can
remember.
drink them.
I know, but I've got like larger concerns here. I've got like 1,800 milliliter bottles that I have to get through, and I don't know. It seems like that's a more pressing concern to make space than all of these little 300 milliliters soldiers. So
Yeah, I think I killed a couple of the early bottles without cooking the recipes that go with them. So I think I need to reacquire a couple of those. If you want to part with them, I don't mind taking them off your hands.
maybe I should just like march a whole bunch of them down there on the Shinkansen and drop them at your place. I'm sure the rest
bring
of
those
the
bottles
family
down
would be
off.
thrilled.
I'll cook the menu for you.
Oh, I like that. I like that plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Have booze will travel. All
There
right.
you go.
Good question from Chris. Thank you for that. Let's get back to we skipped this, and this was my fault last week. We skipped the newly opened last week.
We did. Yeah.
And I already kind of showed one. I showed you the. Actually, this is not. That's a lie. This is not newly opened. Sashiba. I've had this for a while, and I had 2 bottles of it. I killed the first one, and I've just been slowly sipping this one. I forgot that I had it. I hid it from myself, which is what I often do with stuff that I don't want to drink. I put it way at the back, and I found it the other night. I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have that again." So, what do you have that's newly opened?
Well, last week it was going to be Takachiho, but we've done an entire episode about that. And I did open something in the meantime, when it actually fits really well with your newly opened. Is I recently, first time in a long time, cracked Nico Nico Taro, which is Ikema's main brand. So same distillery.
Yeah, I have 2 of their brands here that I. There we go, Zuiko and then Sashiba. So this is like an Ikema show now.
That's right, an awamori distillery that we both adore. The Toji is probably what is he now? Is he still making it? Still the same guy, right?
I think he is,
as far as we know.
Yep.
He's got one arm. His distillery has a dirt floor. Like it's a crazy, crazy place out in the middle of cane fields on Miyako. And I opened this bottle. I'm actually going to have to take a picture of it because it's not going to show up. Look how crooked that label is.
That's special. I like it. I like it.
I think the Toji may have applied this one. But it's great spirit. Absolutely love it. But I remember when we approached them on behalf of Honkaku Spirits for export, they're like, "Are you kidding?"
They're like, "No kidding. No, thank you."
Thank you. No, thank you.
They're like, "Get out of here."
We have turned our sights elsewhere for awamori export, but that it's an absolutely incredible shochu, and it's funny because for those of you who remember the long lost Shira Yuri episode, which is the only one of our Instagram lives that did not
survive. It just didn't archive. Yeah.
And I really think it might have been one of our best because I was not happy with Shira Yuri. And Shira Yuri is one of my first favorite awamori.
Yeah.
And I used colorful language a lot in that episode. And when I opened this, it's Shira Yuri adjacent. And I'm like, why do I have such a strong reaction against Shira Yuri? At least why did I? It's growing on me.
Coming around.
But not for this one. So now I still have the Shira Yuri in the back of my cabinet because I'm afraid of it. I'm going to have to get that out and do a side-by-side with this Nico Nico Taro, and maybe I'll be a little bit happier with both of them by the end of it.
This is a 2019 bottle of Shira Yuri, and it's it's called a funkiness. For me, it's a whole bunch of pickled vegetables. And specifically, it's olives for me. There's so much olive juice in here.
And I just get latrine.
You say that every time. And I love it. I love it. It kind of divides the room, Shira Yuri. It really does for awamori lovers.
Definitely slowly growing on me.
It's one of those, for me, it's kind of like an end of the night drink. And I know I've said this before, and I think I'm probably cribbing this from somebody else who's once said, maybe it was me, I don't remember, but I don't really feel like I've been out drinking awamori until I have my glass of shirayuri. And then that kind of like, that's the stamp on the night. Like, yes, I did awamori right this time.
Yeah.
And it's not available. It's not like something you can get anywhere. And it's not for everybody. Because a lot of people smell it and they're like, whoo, what is that? It's a really, really out there flavor profile that is, there's a learning curve involved.
Yeah. I won't repeat some of the things I said on that early episode. That'll just remain in the ether somewhere, unfortunately.
But back to Hitori Aruki. This is that aroma is lovely.
It is.
Sorry. Yeah,
for sure.
So, actually, I haven't done my newly opened yet because actually, what I claimed was my newly opened is like open for years. My legit newly opened this week is a beautiful bottle of Manazura.
Ooh. Yeah.
And so this is their main brand. And when I say main brand, doesn't it sounds like you should be able to get it, and you can't. I know that they do export this exact bottle, or it's the exact bottle with a slightly modified label to the US, but they just I think they shrink the branding a little bit and they put a little bit of English at the bottom. Until recently, a 1.8 liter bottle was not allowed for spirits in the US. That changed quite recently. Now
in December.
So in December, but what they were doing before, this is a 1.8, the legal size in the States, why does it freaking matter? Was 1,750 milliliters rather than 1,800 milliliters. So they were short filling the bottles by 50 ml, which it's a brown bottle. So like it didn't look weird. It didn't look like somebody had made a mistake necessarily. And they were exporting a very, very small amount of this over the years.
Something like 10 or 20 cases a year of six bottle cases. Yeah.
It's baller if you have shochu of this size on the back bar. So
yeah, they used to have that at Torishin, the yakitori place that had a Michelin star in New York City.
That sounds amazing.
And that would be my my drink of choice whenever they had it in stock. Really, really good stuff. I'm a little jealous. I don't think I have any Manzen right now. I'll have to track some down. I've got sister brands of theirs. I just don't have the main brand.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I've got both Manzen and Manazura. So
I always make sure I get nervous when I get low on these, and then I start hunting them again online. So I always have a couple bottles of all three brands on hand. Well, that's not true. Manazura, I think I probably have over 20 bottles of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You're a little bit.
That one I'm a little obsessed. Yep. So,
what kind of vertical do you have on that? Do you actually know what years you have?
At one point I logged it, and I have a slightly patchy vertical going back to about 2006 or 7, I think. Maybe before that, a little bit before that. But I have most of the years. I haven't really tried to hit every year, but now that you say that, I probably will. Damn it, Lyman. Yep. I've been so good about staying off the internet and chasing these things this year. I haven't actually gone near any of the aftermarkets in 2022 just because I decided it wasn't even a resolution. It was just like, let's take a break. It doesn't have to be for the whole year, but let's just stop spending time chasing these things. Because late night, you know me, I will go and find it.
I enjoy spending Christopher's money. The two ways I do this, it's suggestions for shochu bottles he doesn't yet own or has run out of, and the other is URLs. Yep. Christopher has some amazing collection of URLs,
and many of them we actually use in one way or another. So it's not like we all hate squatters, but some of the ideas some of the URLs I have, nobody would have thought of. They're weird. They're inside joke. It's inside baseball URLs. So. That's why they were so cheap, because nobody had ever looked them up before. So it's like, oh, that's only $3. You could just like, it's when a child goes and bangs on the keyboard, and then that's your URL. Yeah. It's kind of the equivalent of that.
Nobody's ever going to use this, so we're just going to make it free.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, bless your cotton socks. You want to take this? Sure. Give us your $3.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should probably reel this one in. Thank you, everybody out there in Shochu'sday land, for your comments and participation. Hopefully you took away something slightly new, or it just kind of steered your thinking vis-a-vis shochu and awamori in a slightly new direction with a slightly more rounded appreciation of Zenkoji spirits. Zen meaning all, koji meaning koji, so 100% koji spirits. And I think it's something that we'll probably talk more frequently about, but that's your word of the day, Zenkoji. And we'll be back next week. Next week we have a special guest because Stephen is going to be preoccupied. Next 2 weeks we have special guests. On the 16th, the 15th, in wherever else you are in the world, for most other people in the world, it's going to be Ms. Dilali, who is based in Chicago. She's going to be joining me on the show to talk about shochu and Japanese spirits in her market and what she's been doing and her experiences. And then 2 weeks from now, Stephen, can you tell us who's going to be on the 23rd? Because I'm going to be in transit coming back.
That's right.
Whatever.
So yeah, the 22nd, will be Jason Rogers, who is the founder of Yabai, the canned chuhai that's available in the U.S. He's a former professional skateboarder who now owns an alcohol brand, and they import their distillate from Japan and they can it in the U.S. So really interested to hear the story of Yabai, how it came about, and all that sort of thing.
Yabai.
So he'll be on in 2 weeks. So yeah, we got some guests coming back on. Finally, I'll be in Tokyo taking the JSS Sake and Shochu Academy course next week, which is why I can't join.
So a couple weeks from now, a few weeks from now, we can talk about, we can get a roundup on that. So that's our next three episodes covered. Love it. Can somebody out there take notes and remind me? Because I always forget what we're supposed to do next week. Shoot me a text. But yeah, anyway, we've got the 2 special guests, and then we'll do that'll be the first episode when we're back together. It'll be the first episode of March, and
so you'll be.
Is that correct? I will be in Okinawa at that time. So yeah, we're doing Okinawa episodes again for a month. Sweet. Cool. Okay, that's sorted. Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the 90th episode of Shochu'sday. See you again next week, same time, same place for episode 91. And from both of us here in Japan to all of you all around the world, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Kanpai.